Welcome to Mershman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, we share some weather maps and metrics on what's coming in the next couple of days. Ben and Dylan share some information and maps on southern corn rust and tar spot of corn and managing your yield. And Lynn covers the importance of sulfur and nitrogen and best practices when it comes to protecting your yield.
Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Welcome to Mershman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Ben, Dylan, and Lynn, and a lot of things going on in the field. Who's going to start first?
I guess I can. One of the things that is on everybody's topic of mind, whether you're anywhere in our sales footprint, is the weather. So I wanted to talk about some of the heat that is coming in, starting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this prolonged heat period that we're going to have here over the next couple days. So I robbed a few of these graphics from Eric Snodgrass from his Friday's publication that he did. And a couple of the things that I wanted to highlight. The first map that I wanted to throw up was the evaporation tool that he has for the next 7 days. He's working on getting this so that you can see this whenever you want. You can pull it up on his website. I just wanted to note that, areas of western Iowa over the next 7 days are going to lose 2.3 inches of rain just based off of evaporation. Where we are here locally, it looks about like 1.8. give or take, and you can see that it's a good thing we're getting the moisture that we are getting, because with the heat that is coming into play, we're going to be losing that moisture very quickly. So we haven't seen a lot of the past couple years. We haven't seen a lot of days with 90+ degree temperatures, so it's going to feel a little bit different out here for the next 7 days at least. So
I think the word you're looking for is miserable.
yeah, that's for sure. And when you look at miserable, the second picture that I wanted to throw up is the NDFD 7-day forecast for total stress degree days. And this is something that Elwin Taylor talked about. So anytime we have overnight temperatures above 74 degrees and anytime temperatures go above 86 degrees, there is a stress degree day that he calls it. This is something that Snodgrass has tracked in the past, and I was curious because I hadn't seen anything on his website yet for this year. But when you have an accumulation, at least for the state of Iowa, if you have an accumulation, according to Elwin Taylor, of 150 stress degree days, it can start impacting yield. You'll have lower yields in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, it's because the corn plant's going to, instead of using energy to put into yield, it's using energy to cool itself.
Right. So this is a map of the current or the next 7-day forecast of total stress degree days, and he's also working on a map to give us the accumulation as it happens over time, just like growing degree units. So where we're sitting right now currently, looks like southeast Iowa's at 37. There's areas in western Iowa and eastern Nebraska that's 57 to 60. You guys can take a look at the map. You can pause the video and take a look that direction. But I thought that was very interesting. Miserable and stressful is coming in the future.
Well, to Joe's point there, we think the daytime high is where it gets, really hard on the crops. But to your point, it's that nighttime low that is actually the probably the harder thing on the plant, because we're just not respirating like we're supposed to. That plant is under stress the whole time and not able to have that moment to kind of take a break, for lack of better terms there.
What's the stat, Dylan?
Yeah, so then to add to that, the stress overnight, Fred Belo, he talks about it. It's any day in August, if the night temperature is above 73 degrees, we're losing a bushel a day on corn. So
Big time.
That hits you pretty hard. If we can't control that.
So good thing we're doing it in June.
According to Belo, this heat isn't that big of a deal right now. The corn crop's young enough. We're kind of out of the stretch of kernels around termination. We're just more in vegetative at this point. We had a chance to visit with him and go to a meeting this week, and he's just a wealth of knowledge. He's really cool to hang out with. So a map, another image that backs exactly what you're saying. Snodgrass also did the past 40 years of the relation between heat days and dry days and which one affects yield the worst. The years that yield has been limited the most have more to do with heat than they do with drought. So 70% of the yield loss comes from heat, 30% of the yield loss comes from drought. I think it was the year 2022 or 2023, we had guys in northeast Iowa that didn't think that they were going to raise a bumper crop, but they ended up raising a bumper crop because they were extremely limited from their average rainfall, but they had just enough rain to keep them moving, and they had cooler temperatures at the same time. So I'm not saying that this is a terrible we have a terrible forecast or we're losing a bunch of yield or anything like that, but these are things to be thinking about and what things we can do to be mitigating stress and getting this crop prepped during that time frame. So
yeah, for the guys that were fortunate enough to get into the field in the month of April and even the month of May, having our crop to canopy on both corn and soybeans is looking really beneficial right now as well, especially with all the sunlight that's going to be happening here. If you are in 30-inch rows and we're a little bit later, that sunlight's not going to go wasted, so definitely be on the prowl if you have not done your post pass related to that, because the sunlight will not be wasted, and GDUs for water hemp production is going to be through the roof.
Yep. So at the time of this airing, and to your point, I've gotten a lot of pictures. With the summer solstice happening, I've gotten a lot of pictures of flowers starting to happen out in the field. That's at the time when the sunlight starts to lessen. The soybean will start triggering its flowering. We have a really limited time now to legally post our products. Liberty and Enlist you have through R1, so anytime that you have flowers at the 2 uppermost nodes, you are officially at R2, and I've seen pictures of early planted soybeans that are already there. So it's time to get spraying done if it already hasn't been done.
Yeah, and with Liberty and its water use, we definitely want to, if we can avoid spraying it on a flowered crop, that's even better, if you have that opportunity to.
Right. Yep, absolutely agree. Another one of the metrics that I wanted to pull up, and we're going to talk a little bit about disease here for a minute, is basically just a picture of the Bermuda high. It shows where the high position is at right now, and the wind, the anomalous wind that is coming up through the Bermuda high, basically pulling moisture in and wind in, and it's also going to be bringing disease and insects in through this path as well. This is what's allowing us to have rainfall the way we're getting it right now, because you're getting Gulf moisture coming through this wind direction. One of the podcasts I was listening to this week was talking about the crops in southern Illinois and how difficult it has been to get corn and soybeans in the ground. And the question was asked, okay, for the 50% of the crops that are in the ground and look okay, what are you worried about? What's the next thing that you're worried about? And he said that this agronomist that has been an agronomist for 40 years said that his next biggest worry is southern rust. And I have a map here from the Crop Protection Network that shows a confirmed county in Mississippi where they found southern rust. So this agronomist had heard rumblings that it's around. It's obviously hasn't been reported to the Crop Protection Network yet. So that's something to be thinking about as we continue to get these rainfalls, and as this Bermuda high is set up the way that it is, that disease and insects is the next thing that we really need to start scouting for extremely heavily, which is a fun thing to do when it's 95 degrees outside and 85% humidity. So I just wanted to get that on guys' radar to start be looking for for southern rust. And Dylan, you got a map in front of you for another disease we got to keep our eyes out on.
Yeah, everyone hates to hear it, but I think tar spot, it's here to stay. Everyone is talking about it, but I think it's so important that we need to keep hitting about it, because now it's been confirmed in 4 counties in Iowa so far. When I think this was last updated Wednesday of this week. And so now we're kind of in the central part of Iowa, and now it's kind of starting to surround Iowa, and I'm sure it's in more counties too, but we just haven't seen it. And then to the east of us in McDonough County in Illinois, just across the river county, it's already been reported there. So it's just gonna be a matter of time before it completely goes. We see it every year, 25%. It's still over winters, so that's a big. It seems like anywhere you go, it came in at some point.
Right.
And that just comes with moisture and humidity, and that's what it's going to be perfect for it now. We have the moisture for it. Now it's going to get hotter than crap, and I think it's going to really start to spread. And I think it might catch some people off guard. I think even with kind of the low prices, I still hear chatter that I don't know if I should spend the money. It's going to take you one time not to spray. We were at this conference we were at. There's guys talking that they saw 100 plus bushel, 50 to 100 on yield loss and tar spot, and they never not sprayed again.
And that's Michigan, Ohio, Nebraska, Iowa, all of these guys, 100, 110 bushel yield losses.
Yeah, and then on top of it, once you get that tar spot, it's going to cannibalize the stock, and you're going to have corn going down in the fall.
Yep, and then the tar spot, it can be on the whole plant. It can be on the ear, the leaves or the stalk. So it's not going to be just on the leaves that you see. It can be anywhere, and it's going to start shutting that down. And last year we saw it in some products that maybe guys need to start looking at. Maybe we need to find a replacement for the product potentially, just because it was pretty crazy on what tar spot did. It completely took over that whole all the leaves are just completely crunchy, and this was, we had some pretty good time left before harvest. So it's just something to keep in mind as we keep moving through this growing season. The crop looks great right now. Let's keep managing it. Let's get fungicide timing on around that tassel time, or just keep scouting. And there's another thing too with Xyway. That's becoming a bigger thing now too on your planter. We're seeing great response with that. I think all through, it gets you through tassel. There's been a couple instances. A grower put it on last year at planting, and it was kind of known for tar spot. It was corn on corn, and we didn't see it till like over, past tassel. It was kind of mind blowing, just because I knew the previous year what it looked like compared to what Xyway did. It was pretty amazing to look at.
Xyway goes in the plant, put it on with the planter, goes into the plant systemically, and then protects it to about tassels, is what they say?
Yeah, they will claim tassel time frame, that you can be disease free through tassel, but I've seen it keep fields clean as late as pre-dent, like when the corn's just starting to dent. So
more and more farmers are using that preventive process to buy time for the last fungicide application there.
I think the important part is you have to continue to scout, but it puts a little bit of ease at mind knowing that because you aren't in the center of that field that's hard to get to, it gives you a little bit of peace of mind. You don't have to scout as hard. You don't have to spend as much time in the field, knowing that you got a little bit of protection ahead of time. The spores will continue to colonize. They will continue to spread on the leaves and intensify, and the more spores you have there, the faster that plant will shut itself down, and the shorter your fill window is. And those things are all key when it comes to trying to manage and raise really, really high yields.
So we know we have tar spot around, and potentially southern rust. Once we see it show up in Arkansas, we know we're going to have it for sure. So those are the two biggies right now that fungicide's really going to pay off and could really zap your yield if you don't manage it correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, and Crop Protection Network too. I'll throw that out there. They've got a good fungicide tool. You can plug in any foliar disease in corn or soybeans that you're trying to target. Then it'll give you kind of what they see for ratings versus like on what each product with the rating with protection that it does on the disease. So something to keep in mind if you're trying to figure out what you should do between either southern rust or potentially the tar spot. So you've got your big ones, but keep looking.
And as we're talking about that, we do have tar spot ratings and southern rust ratings. As a whole, I would say that a lot of the Corteva material, which is PowerCore, the genetics that we're pulling, they do have fairly decent tolerance to tar spot compared to some of the other genetic platforms that are out there. I'm a little bit less nervous about tar spot really banging yield when it comes to these Corteva genetics. You do want to watch out for southern rust because products like the 108 only have a 6 rating. So definitely something I'm going to be paying attention to and watching for a fungicide application. 111 days a little bit better. It's got a 7. So that's 7 out of 9. I'd still be watching that one. The 12's got a pretty good rating, and the 14, 15 have pretty good ratings. The 13 I'm going to be keeping an eye out on as well. So nothing is perfect. Nothing is infallible. I imagine there are perfect, from a disease standpoint, there are perfect hybrids out there, but they probably don't yield worth a darn. So you just got to be able to manage what you have in front of you.
Yeah, it's kind of like corn breeding, soybean breeding is like a bookshelf, and the thickness of each book on that shelf determines different things. For example, you always want the biggest book to be yield, and then if you want more disease resistance, well, it's got to come from some place, and usually it means making the yield book a little thinner on that, because that bookshelf, you only got so much room to put books on. So, and that's what you're going to find with the higher yielding products, that they may be weak in 2 or 3 areas, but you can manage them if you know that. So know your ratings on your corn hybrids, your soybean varieties, and know how to manage these fungicides accordingly then.
Yeah, and it makes sense at the 108 day, 106 day, 111 day have a little bit weaker rating because they're set up for more northern diseases, or they're bred for more northern diseases. They don't have a tendency to see the southern rust.
It's not a year-over-year problem.
Right.
Potentially. We're working on 2 years in a row.
Yep.
Well,
We've seen a lot of southern rust in the last few years.
yep. So, Lynn, what do you got?
Yeah, so you've gotten some reports, and I just wanted to put this on the listeners' radars of sulfur deficiency in our crops. We tend to see it every year. That's just nothing that's not new, but just for some background, when we're out there scouting, it seems like this year soybeans, I've seen it off the bat here. All that really has to do with the carbon to sulfur ratio in the fields that I've been looking at, all minimum till to no till. We're looking at cooler, wetter conditions. Basically what it amounts to is that crop just hasn't been able to uptake that sulfur. Has had a pretty decent amount of sulfur put on it, but just hasn't developed the roots to get to that. And a couple key points with sulfur I just wanted to make. It's an essential amino acid that it's very important for the protein production in plants, which we go back to sixth grade science of amino acids. It's basically it's the building block of life when we get a protein. So it's very important that we get that off to a good start from a sulfur standpoint. We've talked about it before. Acid rain, we're not getting the free sulfur from the acid rain anymore. So application is really important. And an interesting fact, and I'll link to the article that I pulled this from, but we're only actually able to get 3 to 5 pounds of sulfur out of our organic matter when we have mineralization. Why is that important? Basically, no sulfur rain and no very limited mineralization. We have to provide that in a form that's available to the plant, and then we also just have to apply it, really what it comes down to. I've got reports of guys up to almost 40 pounds of sulfur going on, and they still haven't met their yield curve is still going up. So that is one to be determined. University is somewhere 20, 25 pounds. But yeah, in high yielding situations, we're definitely seeing that continue to go up. The other one to remember is, as we're looking at sulfur deficiency, we don't want to confuse it with nitrogen deficiency. Two completely different things. And if you think that you're having a nitrogen deficiency and you're actually having a sulfur deficiency, you basically increase the N to S ratio, and that will basically keep the plant from uptaking any more sulfur. So with sulfur, it's going to be on the newest leaves on the top of the plant. Nitrogen, it's on the older leaves. And then you're going to get some striping in those leaves. It could maybe be misdiagnosed as manganese deficiency, or potentially zinc, depending on how early you find it. But around here, most likely 99% of the time when we see a little bit of yellowing at the top of the plant, it's coming from sulfur. Right now, we have an opportunity to fix it as we get a little bit later into the season. It gets just a little bit harder to manage because not a lot of guys have ground rigs that they're able to get up over top of the canopy. And then we want to, just like every other nutrient, we want to have that in place when the plant needs it, rather than being reactionary to going out there. So best practices would be, with sulfur being a highly leachable mineral, meaning that it just doesn't stay. It's not, so it's very mobile in the soil, but immobile in the plant. We like to get that out, springtime ahead of the crop. Common practices around here, ATS and the sprayer getting laid down. A little bit in a 2x2 situation, or very common now to have sulfur and boron in a side dress. So if you're a little bit later with your corn planting and you're going to do some side dressing, it's a good opportunity to get some sulfur out there through ATS or whatever form you're able to get. ATS around here is the kind of the most economical and easiest one to handle. Dry side, you got AMS. You got Ametis, both great products that can get that sulfur out to the field. But we're probably at or near that peak consumption for NNS. So just be on the lookout there. Like I said, great part about sulfur, super easy to manage. Just put more on.
Basically, anytime you put nitrogen on, make sure you got sulfur with it.
Yeah, and I know talking with Henry and Derek on the fertilizer side, I think the supplier of the ATS, they've done some studies with using sulfur as a nitrogen stabilizer. So there's some conversation with that. So yeah, I would say for most guys that we talk to, in a side dress application, using UAN, there is some form of nitrogen that is going out there. The guys that are using it hydrous, obviously that makes it a little more difficult, but if you're using 32 or 28, 99% of the guys have a form of sulfur and boron going out with that.
Very important. I just pulled up the Ag PhD's nutrient removal tool for a 300 bushel corn crop, which a lot of guys strive for. That takes 45 pounds of sulfur between the grain and the stalk. And sulfur also gets tied up in the soil as well.
Yep.
So it's a soil amendment tool as well. So you got to have more out there. You have to have enough for the plant. You also have to have enough for the soil.
Yeah, and that's to your point on the soil side of it. If you have anything that's out of balance in your soil, that sulfur is going to attract to and help kind of flush that out. So you could be applying. Hey, Lynn, Ben, Dylan, I'm putting on a lot of sulfur, but I'm just not seeing any. Well, we need to potentially look at your soil test and figure out, do you have something out of balance that this sulfur is being used to help kind of flush out? And then at that point, we're off to the races then. Typically, it's around here, it's magnesium. Tends to be the one that latches onto that and hitches it right out.
Yep.
Okay, lots of information that can hopefully help our customers and prepare for what's coming. Well, got 4 questions for you guys today. You guys like questions, right? And start with a dog one and end with a dog one. Dogs are always good to start with. Okay. What do dogs and phones have in common? What do dogs and phones have in common? They both have caller ID. So I'm starting out slow. I always start out slow.
That's actually a good
That was pretty good.
Okay. Why are fish easy to weigh? Now, this is one for Dylan. Dylan is a fish eater, Not. Why are fish easy to weigh? Because they have their own scales. Okay, you knew that. And then this one here's for the housewives, Why are kitchens so good at math? Why are kitchens so good at math? Because they have a lot of counters. They have a lot of counters. And Ben, this one's for you. You're the rodeo guy here.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did the cowboy adopt a wiener dog? Why did the cowboy adopt a wiener dog? He wanted to get a long little doggy. He wanted to get a long little doggy. We'll quit there. Anyhow, thanks for watching today. We hope your family is healthy and safe, and we'll see you next week.